The Federal and Chettinadu Public School jointly present Run for Health Karegudi Marathon 2025 on March 2. This event is co-presented by Global Mission Hospital and Research Institute, powered by Repco Home Finance, associate sponsor Sethu Bhaskara College.
It was an interesting day at the White House yesterday. US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's highly anticipated meeting at the White House quickly turned into a heated confrontation. So Trump actually accused Zelensky of lacking gratitude for US aid, while Zelensky insisted that security guarantees were actually necessary before engaging in peace negotiations. The fallout from this clash has actually cast uncertainty over US-Ukraine relations, raising serious geopolitical questions. To talk more on this, I have the Federal's managing editor, K.S. Dakshinamurthy, with me. He follows international affairs very closely. Sir, thank you for joining me today. In your own words, could you please tell us briefly what happened at the Oval Office when these two presidents met?
What happened, the Oval Office is more like a reality show, of which Trump was famous for his reality shows before he became president. So what you basically saw was a completely unvarnished exposure of the nature of relationship today between Ukraine and the US after Trump came to power. So what we basically see is that there is an element of ruthlessness, I would say, in the Trump camp, in the way Donald Trump and his associates like JD Vance, the vice president, are looking at Ukraine. They see Ukraine now as inconvenient. They want Ukraine to just say okay to whatever they are planning, because fundamentally the war or the conflict was between the US and Russia, and Ukraine was just a pawn. And now they just want the pawn to agree to whatever the US says, irrespective of what it implies or what the consequences will be for Ukraine, because they just don't care about Ukraine. In fact, you'll be surprised that once during his election campaign, he categorically said that he doesn't care about Ukraine. So what you saw in the in this powwow, unprecedented powwow, is a reflection of this kind of a perspective.
Okay. Trump actually said Zelensky can come back when he is ready for peace. Does this imply a shift toward, pressuring Ukraine into a settlement with Russia?
I mean, I would say pressurizing is a more it's a diplomatic language. I would say he's just being arm twisted, and they have actually put a gun to his head and say that you better say okay to peace. It's like that. So it's a very serious thing. There is no question of any pressure here. It's far more than that, because right now, as far as Trump is concerned, as far as the Republican camp is concerned, they just want this conflict to end. They want US out of this whole thing, because one of the important elements of the Trump campaign was that the US would stop funding the conflict, and they are at it very seriously because that is what their constituency wants. But the manner in which Trump is going about it is unlike what one would expect a president to be. But then Trump, being what he is, completely unpredictable. So you see it really now in full glare of the media, literally.
Yeah. So how do you see White House clash, affecting US-Ukraine relations in the long run? Could this impact the future of, military aid to Ukraine?
See, what has happened because of this, breakup, in a sense, what has happened is the US has in some ways broken the alliance, which with Europe, with Ukraine, and, which has been there for the last 70 years, since the end of the Second World War. I mean, it's the implications of this is far deeper than just a breakdown of communication between Trump and Zelensky, because this has huge reverberations in the geopolitical sphere. And as far as Russia is concerned, it's unbelievably going their way. And this is something Putin would have never even dreamt that something like this is going to happen. So the implications of this breakdown is something it's going to be spoken about for a very long time. It's a I would say an epochal moment in international politics.
Trump repeatedly insisted that Zelensky should be more thankful for US aid. And is this a shift in how America views its allies? And is America expecting more public loyalty in return?
You see, what has happened is that it has become finally, with all of what we are talking about, the international ramifications, it boils down to individuals sitting in a particular room and discussing peace or how to end the war. So, what you are basically, when JD Vance is asking him, to express gratitude and say thank you, it is almost, it shows how personalized this whole thing has become. Now, we are not talking about a discussion between the presidents of two countries and all that. It's become a conversation between three individuals. So Vance is telling Zelensky, Trump helped you, we helped you, did you say thank you? I mean, it's reduced to three individuals squabbling, almost. So it's that. So we can't, asking for thanks and all that sounds a little ludicrous actually.
Next is a two-part question, actually. So, how has the international community, particularly the NATO and the EU, reacted to this White House fallout? And I'm also sure Moscow should have been watching all this happening. And could this diplomatic strain between US and Ukraine work in Putin's favor?
Well, coming to the first part of your question, Europe is stunned into silence. For Europe, it is a great challenge to their dignity, to their standing in international affairs, because all these years, again, I repeat, from the last 7 decades, Europe has obediently, except for some couple of minor exceptions, the US by and large, the Europe by and large has always followed the US, and they have never stood apart and stood their ground on any issue or taken a position strongly. But today they have been pushed to a situation where if they have to retain any kind of relevance in international politics, they must say what they have in mind. And in fact, retinue of countries, at least about 10 to 12 countries, have already expressed support to Zelensky and said that this cannot be allowed to happen, that Russia cannot be allowed to get away with what it has done as far as invading Ukraine is concerned. But a noticeable absence in this is the United Kingdom. The British have not yet officially responded. They have neither supported the US nor have they supported Zelensky. They're keeping quiet because the UK and the US have a historically very intertwined and close relationship. So it'll be very interesting to see how the British react to this. Will they join with the rest of Europe, or will they continue to be with the US irrespective of what the US does? Now, coming to the second part of your question about Putin, as far as Putin is concerned, he now feels vindicated after having invaded Ukraine. He's now, Russia is, and people who are with Putin now will be very happy because they recognize the fact that somebody on the other side, especially the United States, their biggest rival, is now recognizing their argument, which is that there cannot be a NATO surrounding, a country affiliated or allied to NATO surrounding Russia, which is a big existential threat for Russia. In fact, that is one of the reasons why Putin kept warning the US and the West during Biden's time not to insist on giving membership of NATO to Ukraine. And the US insisted that nobody could dictate terms to them at that point in time. And then Putin just went ahead and invaded Ukraine, which was completely unexpected. Nobody expected. The West, Europe, or the US did not expect it. But once Putin had invaded Ukraine, then it had its own dynamics and the logic of the war happened, and we are seeing that today. It's 3 years since the war started. So today, Putin must be feeling really vindicated and very relieved that the US is fully with Russia rather than with the Ukraine or with Europe.
Let's talk about why actually Trump did that. The heated exchange happened in front of global media. So was this an intentional move by Trump to project dominance, or was it a diplomatic blunder? Or as you said earlier, was just Trump being Trump?
Yeah, see, let's look at why Zelensky went to the US. He went to the US to sign a deal which hands over mineral rights in Ukraine to the US in return for the huge funding. Close to, there are varying figures, but it's around 200 to 250 or $300 billion, which the US has now given Ukraine. So, in return, Trump, being a businessman, wanted Ukraine to hand over its mineral rights. Rare, there are rare elements today which are heavily used in modern technology, in AI, in mobile telephony, etc., etc. So, they were up. Zelensky was called to the US to sign this rare earths deal, and they were they had gathered in front of the media, more like a photo op. It was not expected to be a briefing or anything like that. It was more like a photo op, and it unexpectedly turned this way. I don't think any of the three expected it to become this, but once they started, in this line of thinking, this argument about Ukraine, Russia, and Trump insisted on peace at all costs, and Zelensky resisted, and once stepped in, it just went out of hand. It went out of hand. In fact, the rest of the program that was already scheduled by Zelensky in the US have all been cancelled. Trump cancelled all the rest of the engagements, and Trump's officials have told the Ukrainian counterparts to pack up and go home. So right now, Zelensky is and his team have probably already returned or on the way back to Ukraine without the deal being signed as well. Even the rare earths deal or the deal to get natural resources have also not yet been signed. So that has not been completed. As far as peace is concerned, now, I mean, it's, we don't know where it's going to go, but the US is going to have its way given its clout. And we don't know where Ukraine is going to be at the end of it, where Zelensky is going to be. So these are all absolutely open questions that which we will see getting resolved in the next few days.
The Federal and Chettinadu Public School jointly present Run for Health Karyagudi Marathon 2025 on March 2. This event is co-presented by Global Mission Hospital and Research Institute, powered by Repco Home Finance, associate sponsor Sedhu Bhaskara College.